instances where the stun is breakable, and I'll show them with Nina. First one is with her mist. It's kind of like a nosebleed type of a stun. This one right here.
Yeah, you see they tip their head back, but they got a
It looks
nosebleed.
like, I mean, though it's mist, yeah, it's like something is up with their face. And a way to break this one is by holding down. So when you hold down, it causes the character to drop down.
And that kind of situation, it kind of avoids certain kind of combos that could fall off.
Right.
Where if you held down, you could lessen the combo damage for them.
Exactly. You have to make sure to push it right when you get that mist in your face. If you wait too long, you won't be able to break it.
Exactly.
And the other kind of stun is with their down 4, 1+2. It's a double over stun. And I think we did some research and we found out the easiest way to break it. Rip, what were your findings?
Well, so basically this is, to break this has changed since previous Tekken. Before you had to hold forward. In this game you can actually hold any direction at all and go back to blocking, or you can actually just double tap any direction. So you can double tap down, double tap up, whatever, and then hold back to block. So if you want to even neutral guard, you can do double tap down, neutral guard, and you'll be able to break out of this stun.
Oh.
Or you could just hold back.
Yeah, or you can just hold back. Surprise, surprise.
So,
yeah. So if you want to block, you might want to just hold back, and you'll get out of these stuns.
So much easier.
Way easier than it used to be. And also, there's also a bunch of stuns in this game that are basically unreversible. Kurimitsu has, I think, 4-3-2 on counter, which I think we have counter set on right now. Unbreakable stun. Nina has her forward 3 unbreakable. And what else is there that's unbreakable?
Her down back 2, unbreakable.
Yep.
Yeah, Kazuya has a wild standing 2, etc. So there's basically a lot of stuff in this game that are not breakable.
But generally, 99% or 95%, let's say, are for counter hit.
Oh, true. Very true. Anything else to throw in there?
Basically, you just have to think about them as another combo starter that didn't really technically launch them off the ground. It's just a combo starter that started off a stun. So there's a lot of these kind of combos as well.
Cool. So let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about frame data.
Ooh.
Alright, so what is frame data? Frame data is basically the data for the frames. So what is a frame? So the game is running at 60 frames per second. So this means in every second there are 60 frames that are displayed. And so when you do any moves in the game, whatever you see in that 1 second is going to be 60 frames worth of animation. So for instance, Alex has a jab. The jab is one jab, that's actually 10 frames. And how do we know this? Because since Tekken 6, all jabs are universally 10 frames. I think there may be some characters that have slower jabs.
Yeah, like Ganryu and jab, there's a little exception there.
But for the most part, most of the character jabs are now 10 frames in the game. So you can't really see this, but in practice mode, you can actually turn on hidden analysis and you can count frames if you were to capture all of this, but most people don't do that. So where do you find your frame data? Well, if you go to framedata.levelupyourgame.com, there's actually a chart full of frame data for all the characters. And basically what you can see is you can see a move name, you can see its startup time, and you can see its recovery time. So the startup is basically how many frames it's going to take to hit, and its recovery frames is basically how bad it is off block.
So if you were to do 2 moves at the same time, the one that attacks faster or comes out faster would win.
Right, and basically faster determines the number of frames. Right, so the less frames, the faster it moves is.
Right.
Yeah, so generally, it's just really simple math, basically. That's all it really is. It's just a math game.
I mean,
addition and subtraction.
Yeah, so Mike, let's go ahead and show them why frame data is useful and how it's useful.
How you can use frame data for your advantage.
Alright.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is punishing with frame data. There are certain moves in this game that are punishable on block. What does that mean? It means that it is negative frames on block. So generally, hop kicks in this game are a launcher that starts a combo. They have generally all been made minus 13 now. What does that mean? It means that you have 13 frames to land a hit, and it's guaranteed no matter what if you block that move. So I'll demonstrate it here. I'm going to do King's hop kick, and then Bob's going to punish it with a 10 frame punisher with his forward 2-1 or just regular 2-1.
And you see practice mode there says punish!
Yeah, that's correct. And the game lets you know that you punished it correctly. That's actually a 10 frame punisher, but you can actually hit up to a move that's 13 frames. And generally, you're trying to find a move that does the most damage and it's still guaranteed. And frame data can be useful for that situation. So it's kind of like a shortcut, and it kind of does the research for you. You kind of just look at the numbers and it says, oh, I have 13 frames and I have 13 frame moves. It does this much damage. It should hit.
Right.
But that's still in frame data world.
Right, there's still like pushback and other things like that.
Still pushback and range of your moves.
So if the move connects and it's within those frames, then it will connect.
It should connect, but then there's just pushbacks you have to consider and stuff like that as well.
Now, we were talking about punishment really quick, and I just want to mention that when you're starting off playing this game, you either are you going to use your 10 frame punishers or your 15 frame punishers, right? I mean, that's kind of how everyone starts off. Your 10 frame punishers are usually your jabs, like your 1-2 kind of a string. So if you block a hop kick, you get like a 1-2. Like if you block anything in the game, try to get a 1-2.
Yeah, these are like quick rules of thumb in Tekken. Like generally, if you block a launcher that will launch a crouching opponent, you'll get like a jab punish. This is what we'll call a jab punish because generally you only get jabs. But since they made them like -13 now, some characters can get a bit more, but you can kind of research into your character about those kind of things as well. So as we're going to demonstrate it here with Nina, we're going to do Kings down 1+2. This is at least -16 on block. What that means is a move that's -16. We don't know the exact number on Kings down 1+2, but Nina's back 1+4 is 16 frames, and then we see that it punishes Kings down 1+2, so we know that it's at least -16. And that's how you pretty much come up with frame data in this game if you don't have the exact number for that. So, and
how about, okay, so we've talked about punishing with frame data. How about creating offense from frame data as well?
Okay, so how can you use frame data to create offense? So as you can see right here, Kings while standing 4 is going to be +5 to +6 on hit. So that means if I do a move, so let's break it down easily. Nina's fastest move is going to be 10 frames, and which is going to be her jab.
Right, this is universal for most characters. Most characters are going to be 10 frames for the fastest attack.
So I'm gonna hit her with while standing 4, and I'm gonna have her trying to hit me with a jab right afterward. As you can notice there, I scored a counter hit. You can't really tell because I'm the second character in this practice mode, but I'm just going to try to jab, attack back. But since I was +5 and King's down forward 2 is 13 frames. So what does that mean? You have what's +5 with 13 frames. What does that mean? I have an 8 frame down forward 2 basically.
Right.
Because since her fastest move is 10 frames, I beat her by 2 frames.
Right.
So simple math. It sounds really complicated. But
Bob's brain is like exploding over here.
No, I just want to say, there's all this frame talk. I've been pretty successful playing Tekken. I don't know anything about frames. Don't feel like you have to know this. I don't care about frames. I just play the game, and it works fine for me. So this can definitely help you, but it's not a necessity.
It's not a necessity, but it's a clear-cut way to know for sure that you can't get beat in this kind of situation.
Right. So in that example Mike just showed, if King were to ever score a while standing 4 and then went for a down forward 2 right after it, you have to learn to block that. If you don't know the frame data and you don't know that your opponent is doing this to you, you're probably going to get hit by it first if you try to retaliate.
What we talked about in the very first episode is when you get attacked, don't attack.
Right, I'm just saying, Bob. These are.
I'm bringing it all back. I'm bringing it full circle. Bringing it back full circle.
Tekken, basically, and then generally you have stuff like that as well. 1-2s will leave you at advantage, and there's a couple things like that as well. But keep in mind, if you get really deep into frame data, there are certain things that are negative even on hit, like King's Ali kick right here. I'm gonna try to attack back with while standing 1, and I'm gonna get beat out if Nina does a down forward 1 or down forward 2 even, because it's -13 on hit.
Wow.
So, stuff like that.
And if you get really deep into frame data, you may never come out. Just letting you know.
Just going deeper and deeper.
Cool, so I think that about covers most of the frame data talk. I mean, obviously it's a topic that you can get really in depth with, but this covers most of the basics, it's punishment, creating offense.
Also keep in mind, frame data isn't everything. Frame data is like a double-edged sword. It might keep you back from using moves that are really good, but you hold yourself back by saying, oh man, I think this move is too slow, I can't use it in this situation.
I've seen that way too often. People lose because I don't use that move because of frames.
Yeah,
it's there for a reason.
Because of something like that.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind, frame data isn't everything. I can do a while standing 4, down forward 2, and what if you backdash it, It's like, yeah, you can't beat me to interrupt me.
Right.
You have to consider all these different variables in Tekken as well. It's a really deep game for that.
Bring it back to episode 1, Bob. All those Yomi layers, right?
Yeah, exactly. All
if you didn't watch, go back.
Frame data is important, but there's still all these other options available as well.
Cool, so let's go ahead then and let's move on to, this is a tag game, and we're kind of wrapping up the tutorial series right here, so let's go ahead and talk about some safe ways of tagging. So like I mentioned, this is a tag game, and since Tekken Tag 1, there was a tag cancel that kind of made your tag getting safer, and that option has been removed. You kind of have to be creative in finding ways to tag yourself out of bad situations. So one of the ways you can do that is by using team throws, tag throws, generic 2+5. If you have a certain team, you can do their specific tag throw. There you go. As you can see, Steve is out of there. He was out of there safely. Miguel was in there afterwards. Another way, if you're knocked down, you can, as we mentioned before, you can use tag crash. And tag crash 2+5, if you're grounded and your opponent's life bar is flashing, you can fly from the ceiling. As we mentioned, tag crash can be parried. It can actually also be sidewalked, and we can show that really quick. So it's not the safest option if you get too predictable with it.
As you can see right there, completely whipped in front of my face, so I actually whip punch.
So when you're using tag crash, you have to be careful about where you're at and to make sure that your opponent's not ready for it. Otherwise, they can't sidewalk it, and you'll be basically screwed. Other situations where you may be able to safely get yourself out is after you score a certain knockdown. Say, for example, Forrest needs to get out right now, and you would just hit Steve with his forward 1+2. It's going to get him a knockdown. He can try to tag out here. You know, it gives him an opening basically where his opponent's not going to be able to hit him.
Yeah. Or like Steve here, I can just hit him with forward 1 and tag out. He's really far away. Right.
So you have to basically look for these kind of openings with your own character. You know, see what kind of knockdown situations leave you far enough away. Not necessarily, but you know,
not necessarily.
You just, yeah, you're really just not going to get yourself off. All right. So obviously these things happen in situations where you're trying to avoid raw tagging. But if you do have to raw tag, there are a couple things you may be able to do as like a last ditch resort kind of thing. You can come in with like either a crouch jab. You know, it's kind of, you can actually attack pretty quick from a tag in. So when you tag in, you can actually come with a duck jab really quick, and it'll actually kind of save you, or it might be able to help save you if your opponent's coming with a high attack. Another thing you could do if you have a character like Law, you could come in with a punch parry. You know, if your character has a parry, you can just come in with something like that. Let's just show an example of Steve would try and punch Law as he tagged in. You know, that's one option to try to save yourself. Fanning actually has a back step that he could use, so when he tags in, he could actually take a back step away to kind of avoid their launcher. Oh, very tricky thing.
Yeah, and also there's another example with Miguel. It's kind of character specific with these kind of evasive moves when you raw tag in. But Miguel, when you raw tag him in, I'm gonna try to have Fang go forward 3-4 to launch punish me. So I can actually come in, like his startup of his unblockable, his whole way through. He actually has an auto block. So, but that also adds another going there since he can't block below once he gets raw tagged in. So.
Man, that is cheap.
So there's a couple of things like this where stances that have auto blocks or evasive properties you can use to your advantage when you're raw tagging into evade or block.
Cool. So I think that covers most situations.
And there's one more.
Okay.
One final one. So like let's say my character was low on life, but I finally landed a launcher somehow. And then I got on the combo, and then I ended it with a tag buffer launcher at the end.
Right. Okay. So you can use a tag buffer launcher. You can actually even do like a tag assault and not fill, so that your filler character stays in.
Yeah, that's correct.
You want to stance and wait and stay in stance.
Yeah, so you can also do stuff like, let me get Fang in a regular combo here. And leave Steve in flicker stance, and you'll notice that Steve stays in while your point character gets the hell out of there.
It's like, I'm out here. You got this, Steve.
You got this, man. You got this. I'll take a break in the bench.
Or you can also do running attack.
Oh, right, yeah. So running attack kind of may catch your opponent off guard, or it may even leave you floating in the juggle instead of getting fully launched.
Right.
So those are all things that can kind of help save you from just doing a raw attack.
It's no guarantee, but you at least have a chance.
Yeah, you have some options to kind of help yourself out there. You know, really quick, actually, we were talking about running attacks in the last episode, I believe, or 2 episodes ago. We actually forgot to mention that there's actually, you can actually step on somebody if you run at them and they're on the ground, coming enough steps away. And this is pretty much the case, like, people aren't going to back roll and teach your unblockable shoulder, so you'll usually get this step on them.
Yeah, but this too, as well, since we talked about a get-up section in the last couple episodes, you can also side roll it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Side roll it if you time it just properly.
Oh, so evasive.
Alright.
Cool. So that about wraps up the safe tagging section. Last thing I want to cover is solo mode. So one last thing I want to talk about is solo mode. Now solo mode does seem like it's overpowered. You know, they have more damage, they have purple health the whole way through. It is possible for them to get rage multiple times in one round, but they also have its disadvantages. For example, they cannot take off your red health. Like on the one hand, if you have a teammate, you can take off their red health, and they have no way of recovering that health. right? And you know, if they're about to hit rage mode and you hit them with a hard enough hit, it's only the one time they're going to get rage in that match.
Right, they can't get that second rage.
Exactly. Also, if you do not use tag assault combos on them, you won't give them extra rage as well. So if playing against a solo player, what I would recommend is not using tag assault combos. Stick to just tag buffer launchers or regular solo character combos.
Alright, so in solo mode there are some other disadvantages as well. You can't use the benefits of balcony break, you won't have tag crash, you can't use tag buffer launcher like Rip says, so you can't take away their red life. You also can't use raw tag mix-ups after like certain combos, where you can raw tag and set up for a running mix-up with your tag partner. You can't do any of that kind of cool stuff. And this is a tag game, guys. Come on, we're a tag team now. Come on.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, my point of the whole thing is that solo mode really isn't that strong. I mean, it may seem that way, but I think as the game progresses, it's going to be less and less effective, especially at the highest levels of play. I think especially if a person running a team is very good at turtling and they can out-turtle the rage mode that solo characters get, I think it's going to be very difficult for a solo player to win. Alright, so that about wraps up our tutorial series. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This episode, of course, we covered a lot of the wall break system, as well as floor breaks, the wall system in general, as well as the balcony breaks, stuns, frame data, etc. Hope you guys enjoyed everything. You know, we do have a lot more Tekken Tag 2 content coming, so be sure to subscribe to our channel at youtube.com/levelupyourgame. Tune into our website at levelupyourgame.com. There's a lot of Tekken news there, as well as the frame data with the game. So other than that, be sure to follow us at Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook.com/levelupyourgame. And tune in next time to level up your game.